Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm Stephen Conway. With me, as always, Jeremy Finestone. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network, and we have a terrific show lined up for you, something very special. We're going to be covering the Road to the Tokyo Dome show, a terrific show at Korakuen Hall today. We're going to be talking about some of the events leading up to the big Wrestle Kingdom week. But Jeremy, we have something very, very exciting. We have two of the primary participants in New Japan's biggest event. Why don't you tell the folks about it?
Well, a call was made out on the social media internet, and we answered from El Phantasmo and Hikuleo that they were doing some meet and greet with the podcast world, and they had decided to join us and give us some of their time. And so we're going to bring them on right now and waste no more time. And welcome to Hikuleo and ELP.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What up?
We're very happy to have the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions on the show with us. And gentlemen, we're just going to start with this. A huge show coming up, of course, January 4th, Wrestle Kingdom 18. Title versus title. Your Strong Openweight titles against the IWGP World Heavyweight titles. So after a year of a lot of changes and things going on with where you guys are aligned, and you're in one of the biggest matches of the year on one of the biggest shows of the year, title versus title. It's a bit overwhelming. How are you feeling going into this one? You've been in the Wrestle Kingdom stage before, but this is a huge match for both of you.
Yeah, ELP has been on the Wrestle Kingdom stage before. This will be my first main card appearance.
Main card, yeah, true. That's true.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about it? I mean, this is a big match and a big spot, and you're with two of the very best in the world. Some say the Bishamon's the best tag team in the world. So it must be very exciting being in this kind of position in this spot. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you prepare for a match of this magnitude?
Yeah, well, as you can see, I have a straw up my nose.
Oh,
as I just had a deviated septum fix from numerous broken noses over the course of my career.
oh wow.
And then also my shoulder and neck have been fucked up from Tag League and the G1. So I'm not on the best path to the Tokyo Dome physically wise, but mentally we're excited. We're are the biggest match of both of our careers for sure inside the Tokyo Dome, with an opportunity to finally ascend to that next level in New Japan. Whether we do or not, that remains to be seen. But, you know, after beating Bishamon at Korakuen Hall and barely losing to them in the finals, we're feeling pretty good going into the Tokyo Dome. I haven't won a match inside the Tokyo Dome in 5 or 6 years, but hey, there's a first for everything, right, boys?
I think money's on you guys, in my opinion. The momentum is in the direction of the Gorillas of Destiny. I got a question about the way you two lined up with each other. You guys both have a little bit of crazy in you. ELP, you're willing to go a little nuts in the ring, and Hikuleo, you're willing to destroy your body in multiple different ways. Do you encourage each other to go a little crazier because you want to one up each other? Are you on the same page? You know, Hikuleo, you're willing to take a fall off the rafters in order to win your title, but it didn't work out that way. ELP, you'll do a Who's Your Daddy match with Shingo Takagi and make it entertaining. So what's your mentality working with each other and just being fun and creative in the ring, and how that's going to bring you success?
You know, I totally forgot about that rafter table bump. I feel like the more times I bring out a table, the more I get put through the table. This is the second time now I brought out a table.
Hey, bro, you gotta stop doing that.
Yeah.
We should have just used the chairs, bro. Just fucking sabu the shit out of them.
It's amazing how often
top rope. I would have never gone off the top rope if it wasn't for ELP. So he does push me.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, you know, when the first time it didn't work out, I was like, you know what? Let me try it myself.
You doing a thunder kick off the top rope, and then your poor knees, my man. Your poor knees. How are you feel? Are you ever going to try that one again?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Of course.
That seems like a Tokyo Dome moment. If it were up to me, I'd see a thunder kick like that off the Tokyo Dome. Both of you doing a thunder kick.
Now I know why he does it, man. The rush you get for being up there. When he held me out there for a second, I was like, damn, this is pretty damn cool. And then I jumped and the rope slipped. The rope rolls.
They spin.
Yeah, they spin. So my foot slipped on it and I didn't get my full, I didn't get to spread the wings as much as I wanted to. But being
Well,
with
I'm excited to see it all happen again.
yeah, being with ELP, man, you definitely work up the courage to push the limits.
Well, I wanted to just go back a little bit here with you guys. You said this is you said yourselves the biggest match of your career coming up, but it's been a long journey. Both of you have been a part of the New Japan system in one way or another for years. So, Phantasmo, for you, I know it started a little bit with Rev Pro. You had a couple of matches when New Japan came over to England, and you appeared on those, and then. Boom, in 2019, you're in Best of Super Juniors. Can you tell us a little bit about how you and New Japan came to be on each other's radar, how you got your first run there? How did that all come together?
Yeah, it was all thanks to Rev Pro. I moved from Canada, went to England, had no bookings in England except through Rev Pro, through Kyle O'Reilly, who got me that first match against David Starr, and then just kept grinding and hustling. And then I remember New Japan came over for like a Super Strong style tour in England, and they did the first night in Milton Keynes, and then they did the second night in Manchester. And I wasn't on the first one, but I was on the second one, and it was like a four-way with me, David Starr, Taiji Ishimori, and Tiger Mask. And I kind of showed up, did the rope walk moonsault, did a coast to coast, got my shit in, as Brian Cage would say, and I think kind of got some big reactions from that big crowd that had never seen me before, which I think definitely turned a couple heads backstage. But that was also at the time that like Kushida just left New Japan and NXT UK was starting, so a lot of the UK guys were going to NXT UK. And it was just kind of like the right place at the right time that New Japan needed a new junior, and they have the alliance with Rev Pro, and I was a loyal Rev Pro guy in my time in England, and then they gave me a match with El Desperado at York Hall that was a lot of fun, and then they gave me the British J Cup with Liger, and my biggest thing was like, let's just not hurt Liger and let's take care of him and have fun. And then, ended up winning the whole tournament, which was crazy. And then, then I kind of felt like, oh, they were kind of testing me, and they sent Rocky to wrestle me, they just kept slowly sending guys to see if I could hang with them. And, the whole reason of leaving Canada going to the UK was to show that I could wrestle the best wrestlers in the world at a top level. And, right place, right time that they offered me a deal.
Well, it shows. I'm sorry, it shows the faith they had in you, because you look at the names you just listed, the people you wrestled very early in your New Japan run, some of the very best they had, some of the all-time legends. So they must have felt comfortable with you right away, and that's testament to the way you did show up, like you said.
Yeah, well, it's also funny that they originally only offered me like a 3-month deal to do the Best of Super Juniors and maybe Super Junior Tag League, but that was also right as AEW was starting, and I wrestled Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan was there, and they offered me a deal to go to AEW. But that was before anybody kind of knew what it was. And then I was went from one day being an unknown indie wrestler in the UK to have multiple contracts offers. And, at the end of the day, New Japan asked first, and that's what my decision came down to. Was they asked first, they wanted me first. Yeah, it was funny that I was texting Cody Rhodes on WhatsApp, and then he didn't respond. And then I was like, Cody, like, I kind of like need to talk to you, and he didn't respond. And then Rocky got the Japanese visa, and then they're like, hey, we want you in Bullet Club. I was like, shit, I can't say no to that. And then, but if you ever talk to Cody, he's like, oh, I've only ever used WhatsApp for one person because like I don't have like iMessage or anything. And like that was like the funny story that Tony Khan was like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, well, he didn't respond to me on WhatsApp. And then he fucking called Cody backstage in front of everybody. He's like, what's going on with ELP? And I was like, dude, like you didn't respond on WhatsApp. He's like, oh shit, I don't, like you're the only person I talked to on WhatsApp, so we forgot to check it. And, it's kind of, it was kind of funny story.
All right, place, right time, like you said. And Hikuleo, I wanted to ask you. Now, you had trained originally with the Dudleys in Florida, correct? That was before you were with the dojo, but of course, you have a lot of ties with your family to New Japan Pro Wrestling between Haku, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, the rest. Was the goal always New Japan, even when you were training with the Dudleys in Florida, or was that something that you thought maybe I'll forge my own path, and then you ended up there? I mean, what was that story?
Yeah, New Japan was always the plan, especially with the heavy influence of my dad. He was like, that's the place you need to go. You need to learn from there, start out from there. And yeah, that we caught wind that they were doing a show in New Zealand. And so Tom was like, let's get you down there and train at the father was just starting his school. There was only 2 of us there and hopefully get a look. But I had originally sent my stuff into New Japan probably in 2015, but they weren't accepting any more people. They said they had too many foreigners. I think they had Jay, Finley, Juice, and maybe Cody Hall in the dojo. And they're like, there were just too many foreigners during that time. So I waited like another year, and that's when the show down in New Zealand happened. And that's when we flew down there. I trained with Fale for like 3 months. And that's when the show came over. And who was it? I think it was Hattori. He was over there first. He's like, why don't we try and have you over there for 3 to 6 months in the dojo to see what you can do? And what sucked was that I had my first match against Aaron Hinare. And he does a kicking thing. And he, fractured my forearm. And this was November 2016. And I was set to go to Japan in 2017, January. So I was really nervous about that, but I guess I showed enough fighting spirit where I was doing push-ups, doing all like the workouts with the cast on my forearm. You
were doing push-ups with the cast on your arm?
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Well, at first I was kayfabing it. I was like, I can do it without it, but I was just like screaming. Like when it kind of rips out, I was just screaming my head off because it hurt so much. And Tom was like, don't show your weakness. Don't tell him you're hurt. And then finally one day we're in the ring and we're trying to do like handstands or whatnot. And it just finally gave out from the pressure. And they're like, what's wrong with it? I was like, I think, I took a wrong bump during one of the training sessions. And so they took me to the hospital and they showed like, it was like completely like a little bump there now, but that's besides the point. They were like, you've been hiding this for 2 or 3 months. We love the fighting spirit in you. We'll keep you for a little bit more. And so the rest is history after that.
And you had an ACL tear fairly early in your career also, correct? That you had to have surgery and come back from or out a long time. So with those early injuries, and you must have really impressed with just your persistence, because that would have run a lot of guys out.
I guess so. A year after I came to the dojo, 2018, I tore my ACL and I was out for like 6 months. And then they were like, the LA dojo was just starting out and Shibata had just become the coach. Now let's send you over there, see how you get back into ring shape. And luckily, Shibata's training methods were just really up to date. It was American style type training, and he kind of kept it easy on me. But I guess you say I was persistent, but it was kind of like I didn't want to go back to my job at working for like a warehouse or working for like pennies or whatnot. Why not try and force the dream and just accept this little pain for now? So it worked out, I would say.
Jeremy, you have anything?
I was just wondering. So this is fantastic. And this isn't the first time that you guys have decided to coordinate your outfits and get a reaction out of people rather than just come up with a little bit of swag. You have a swag in a different way. Are you planning on going into Wrestle Kingdom decked out in LED lights between the two of you, just head to toe the Guerrilla's Destiny with the El Phantasmo vibe? Do you have a flair for Wrestle Kingdom planned?
Kind of. I don't think we're gonna do a costume, as we kind of want to take Wrestle Kingdom a little seriously.
Okay.
But it was funny that I kind of had that idea in Las Vegas against Monster Sauce. I kind of like tweeted, I was like, oh, you guys better not out drip us. And I had them like really worried about what we were going to wear. And then, Zane kept or like Alex Zane came dressed up in like Gucci and gold, and we showed up in like jeans and a t-shirt, and he's like, "What the hell? Like I thought you guys were gonna have like a big drip on," but we didn't tell them that we had the Bert and Ernie costume in the backpack, and we didn't like bring it out until they had already gone out and their music played. So like when their music was already out there, then we like quickly put it on, and then all like Shingo and Rocky saw us back and started popping huge, and you know, it was just one of those things. And then that
And you're just both on board with this. It's just like just
yeah.
your energy with
Well,
each
the original plan was like I wanted to be Oscar the Grouch, and he was going to be Big Bird, but I couldn't find a costume that was like big enough for me. They had a Big Bird one, but they didn't have any Oscar the Grouch in my size. So I was like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do?" And then Bert and Ernie, I was like, "Oh, that'll be funny." And then yeah, then we knew we were gonna do the tag league press conference. I was like, "Oh, let's do like Christmas elves and give out little presents and stuff, and have Jado-san dress up as Santa, and he can do ho ho ho, and you know they'll be funny." And you know, nobody in Japan is really like used to that. You know, they're like, "I can't believe you guys do this," and you're like, "Well, wrestling's still entertainment. Like we're not just gonna come in jeans and a t-shirt and say we're gonna have a good fight. Like we like to have fun." And you know, there was a whole bunch of people there, and had people chanting at the press conference. So that was a lot of good. But I think for Wrestle Kingdom, we're just gonna wear something sort of nice.
Okay.
I do have I have a custom outfit being made from a fashion friend, but it's not a costume or anything.
It's just swag, maybe press conference, you know.
There's gonna be some swag to it, but it's definitely no Halloween costume for the biggest show of the year.
Fair enough.
The next one though.
All right. What do you got, Steven?
On a more serious note here, ELP, you'd mentioned the injuries and how those have piled up. Now that happens to everybody, whether you're junior heavyweight, or anything. But what I was curious about, since you spent a long time as a junior in New Japan and working that style, have you had to make much of an adjustment as a heavyweight wrestler now to your working style, or is that are you just trying to wrestle like the same way? Or obviously the guys are bigger, that's different, but you wrestled heavyweights when you were still in the junior division. So how has that changed as you moved up? Obviously, maybe you're just getting hit by bigger guys, or is it have you adjusted?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment. I've definitely been getting injured more in the heavyweight style than I did the juniors. But I think that just might be like the wear and tear. But there's definitely a different like psychology and tempo to the heavyweight matches. And I was always annoyed that like the juniors just don't get treated with the same respect as the heavyweights do. Like if we're in a 6-man, me, Ishimori, and Chase, like Chase would get the top billing and the music when we're the tag champions. You're like, well, what the fuck? Nobody cares about Chase. People care about us. Like, why do they automatically get perceived bigger than us? Which was always a little annoying to me. But something I never talked about is I actually tore my MCL in the Shingo feud in the match at Ryogoku. Which sucked because like we had the G1 match, which was great, and then we were gonna do the rematch, which ended up being a Who's Your Daddy match, which I was like, okay, this is a little weird, but we'll make it work.
I think we all thought it was weird, but now that you said it,
when they're like, oh, you're just gonna call Shingo Daddy, and I remember like the Good Brothers and Jay were in the locker room, and I like looked over, I was like, what the fuck? Like, is this a rib? And I was like, whatever, we'll make it work and have it. But yeah, like the first 5 minutes of that Shingo match, I tore my MCL and my meniscus, and then had to like wrestle on that, and then I was like, fuck, guys, like, I don't know if I can do this. And then we had to do like a street fight in New York. But that was very like smoke and mirrors. Like if you like rewatch it, like I couldn't bend my knee and be like very careful. But I was very lucky that I didn't have to get surgery, and I could kind of just work through it and adapt through it. But then like this past G1, I had like the issues with my neck and shoulder that I kind of sold throughout that tournament, and then it kind of reappeared during tag league. But that hurt more in tag league than it did during the G1. I think this tag league schedule was so hard on everyone's bodies that we were all beat up. Like it was like 18 matches in like 21 days and travel days, and like that's why the finals went 40 minutes, because we were just so beaten and exhausted that like it sucks. And then haven't been to the gym since that, and then just to have like this nose getting fixed, like it's not the most ideal time when it's Wrestle Kingdom season, but like these are the only times you could get these things done. So hopefully we can make it to Wrestle Kingdom, get out of there, and then we'll be 100% for the new beginning, whether we're the champions or not.
I will say your performances were such that I wouldn't have known any of that thing until you disclosed it. So you hide it well. When you talk about like the 40-minute match, I want to know from both of you, Hikuleo, I think you've had like a 25-minute match with Jay White, and Phantasmo, you've had, I think, like a 30-minute match. So was it harder to do a tag match for 40 minutes or go solo for 25 or 30 minutes for each of you?
Solo for sure.
Okay.
Like with the tag matches, you still have that little bit of time when the other guys run in their hot comeback, or they're doing a little control that you can kind of like tag out and catch your breath. But I think that also that you get hyped up in your head that I get more gassed up in tag matches than I do singles matches, because you have to work so hard, then you have that little period of time to like recover. But like there was some matches on this tour that like I'd do like the first 5 minutes, touch him, he'd do a little thing, and then like it'd be 30 seconds he'd be touching me back in. You're like, shit, bro, I'm not ready. Stay in there a little bit. I gotta get my breath.
But it gets to be like high intensity interval training almost with the way you guys work the tag match.
Basically it is. And then when you're just wrestling every day, you can't train properly, and these fucking Japanese hotels are shit. You're sleeping on concrete, you can't like recover. Like it's brutal, man. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult that not everybody's watching every show to like see the little stories that we're telling in the tournament. They just see the finals and like, why did these guys go 40 minutes? Well, it's because everyone's beat to fuck and injured, and the exhaustion that if you followed it, then you'd understand why it went long. But
yeah, it's like bringing you guys in, beating Bishamon immediately, and then putting you guys on the level. And it was like a full sportsman shaking the hands. There was a lot of surprise that it ended up being you guys coming back again, and now you guys are going to have a rubber match. And so I think what you guys have taken is a very interesting, what was a subplot, and turned it into the main plot of the entire tag division, and just kind of sifted from the ashes of everybody else and said, hey, we are the guys like right now. So I just thought it was really interesting how your stories ended up just being quiet until it emerged from everybody. And I credit you guys for picking your moment properly in the tournament.
I get a question here I'll go with Hikuleo for this one. Challenges when you're doing a third high-profile match against the same opponent, now in the biggest stage of all. What kind of work do you do to try to make sure that each match is a little bit different from one another? And especially what's neat about these two tag teams are Yoshihashi and Goto are two very different wrestlers, just as a great tag team. Same thing with you guys, different styles, different sizes. So there are a lot that brings with it a lot of variables you can work with. But of course, you want to make this one, you want to keep upping the ante each time. We'll talk about the challenges as far as just making your matches interesting and unique each time out.
I think we just go back and watch the last two matches we had together from Korakuen and Kumamoto. You go back and study it and see what some of the things we hit that was really, really good as tag teams, or some of the things that we missed that we should have hit. Like I know we're definitely planning on me going on the top rope again, doing something special with that, or or not. You basically just study film and see the different where they adjusted for the last match and how we could adjust it better. And I think at Wrestle Kingdom is just the atmosphere is going to be to another level as well. It's going to be higher than it was at Kumamoto, of course. And so you just got to bring a different type of energy and the type of training style we do now in these 2 weeks that we have off to get ready for Tokyo Dome.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be a lot more rested for Wrestle Kingdom than we were for the finals. But, we know we can beat them. They know they can beat us. I think with that atmosphere, like, I don't think a lot of the Western fans realize how over we are in Japan right now to the Western or to the Japanese audience. Like, they can't keep our towels stocked, and our like the blue Gorillas of Destiny shirts are like always like one of the top sellers at each show. We have a crazy connection with the fans right now that I think on paper, maybe people aren't very excited for it on the Western side, but I think the Japanese people are stoked for it. Bishamon's the best tag team in New Japan right now. We're the fastest rising tag team in New Japan right now. I think throughout Tag League, War Dogs got elevated, TMDK got elevated. Taichi and Yuya looked great out there. Monster Sauce did great. There's a lot of these tag teams that are now kind of all at the same level, and we're all chomping at Bishamon's feet. And maybe it's not the story that I would have wanted or the path we would have wanted to Wrestle Kingdom, but they chose us for the title versus title winner take all, which kind of is like the most stakes you can do at the biggest show of the year. So I'm not going to complain about it, but I think it's going to be exciting.
This past year, the fans really have taken to both of you. Of course, start of the year with Bullet Club, there was the whole skepticism with David Finlay, the Jay White turn, all that stuff, all that story that kind of led to it. But once all that triggered, each time there were hints that you guys might be on the way, either leaving Bullet Club or kicked out of Bullet Club, however it worked out. The fans were with you guys almost from the beginning. Did you sense that very early on that, oh, this is going to work maybe better than I thought it would?
I don't know. For me, I think it was simple just because I had my brothers already on this side, on the babyface side, on the Hontai God side. So I think it was. I knew my time was coming eventually to leave Jay's side, so it wasn't too much of a surprise, or maybe it was a surprise because it was a loser leaves Japan match, and there was all the news outlets about who was going over to WWE or not. And so I think, it was, I actually forgot what the question was. What was the question?
Were you surprised at how quickly the fans took to you though, and just kind of connected with you on that level where it just seemed like early on they were just like, come on, Hikuleo, you're with us, right? They really seemed to take to you.
Yeah, if you remember that, it was a special moment though when in Kobe, when I switched over, I left Jay and went over to Tama and we did that big embrace. That caught me really off guard. We were just both in the ring and we hugged, and it was kind of like a relief. Like Tama needed that. Like he had been beaten up, he had been betrayed all year, and finally have some brotherly love, to have love finally, like family come over. I think that was a huge reaction from the fans. But I really didn't connect with the fans until I started teaming with ELP. Even when I came over to God, I still had that Bullet Club mindset. Just go into the ring, beat guys up, get the W and bounce. But it wasn't until, when was it, October, that we started teaming up, that you really understand, like, oh, let's give back to the fans. Let's embrace them for supporting us. Even after we had been, in Bullet Club, being these bad guys, doing all the crappy shit that we did, it's now we embrace them and thank them for what the support they've given to us.
How about you, ELP? Because you were one of those guys in Bullet Club where a lot of the fans, and we would hear from here on the show, they were just like, man, I can't stand Bullet Club, but I like it. I like Phantasmo's matches. There was a lot of that. So when you switched and went over to their side, seems like they were ready for it. Did you sense that also?
Yeah, it was brewing for a while. It was me, Kenta, and Ishimori that were getting huge fan favorite reactions every time we came out, and then chasing those guys wouldn't. But I was like, hey man, like maybe we have something here. Like, there's never been like a fan favorite babyface Bullet Club run. Why don't we go with that? Everyone expects us just to be bad guys, but we're already so organically getting these reactions. Let's see what could happen. And then the whole thing with Finlay happened, and then they kicked me out. And I'm kind of glad that they did, because then we could capitalize on these fan reactions. But I remember it was Korakuen Hall, New Japan Cup against Naito, that I was like, are you guys noticing this? Like, there's more ELP chants than there is Naito chants. And that was when I was in Bullet Club, and I got backstage. I was like, do you guys notice like I was more over than Naito tonight? And they're like, yeah. And then had the match with Tama that had Osaka rumbling, and then got kicked out, and had the match with Finlay that had Osaka rumbling, and then the G1 match with Ospreay, and I wrestled Okada in like a country town in the G1, and there was more ELP chants than there was Okada chants, which I was like, oh shit, like shit's kind of popping off here. And then you know, when we finally like kind of like all embraced after the G1 and like started hanging out with God, and then when we won the tag titles at Ryogoku, I was like, God damn, man, these fans are like behind us. And my whole big thing was like wrestling throughout the pandemic was so difficult for us wrestling like in front of clap crowds, but like the fans had to pay money to come to these shows where they couldn't cheer, they couldn't boo, they had to clap. Like clapping fucking sucks for 3 hours. Like try clapping for 10 minutes. Like it's awful. Like they were clapping for 3 hours. You couldn't drink, you couldn't sit beside your friends. I was like, man, the fans deserve more respect than we do. Like it sucks for us to wrestle, but it sucks for them to come and like watch these shows that they can't react to. Like why would you come? Like it fucking sucks. So then once we had like the COVID restrictions lifted, I was like, hey man, I'm gonna start fist bumping these kids and giving them hugs, and these guys deserve the respect from us just for sticking with us. And then I think they realized all the bullshit I went through during COVID of staying in Japan that whole time, that they're kind of like, hey, we appreciate what he did, and kind of mutual, and it all kind of happened organically.
Jeremy, you have anything?
I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming on to the show. You've been on for about 30 minutes, which is about what we planned for. Really want to appreciate you guys. Do you have any plugs, any websites, any social media that you want to move forward on before we let you go?
If you want to see some behind the scenes stuff from all the tours, everything we do, even Tokyo Dome should have some good stuff. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Hiku'sHub. And yeah, all social medias are Hiku_Leo, HIKU_LEO on all the social medias.
What was that Patreon? I'm going to advertise it after you take off.
Patreon.com/Hiku'sHub, HIKUSHUB.
Just one word?
Yep.
Great.
Well,
I ain't got nothing to plug. Go on his Patreon. I pop up on there. I know if you guys are coming to Tokyo Dome, we're going to have a little get together for everyone who's over in Tokyo, probably on like the 3rd or something, which will be cool for anyone coming to Japan. But yeah, thanks for supporting us. Wrestle Kingdom, January 4th. It's not guaranteed it's going to work on New Japan World, so you might as well buy some plane tickets and buy a ticket and come to the Tokyo Dome just so you can see it for sure.
I like it on Apple TV, but it's a little spotty.
Seamless transition.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that. That's a whole other can of apples, but
yes, it is.
Yeah, that's the best.
I would like to finish with saying we'd love to have you back anytime. Thank you for coming on to the show, and best of luck to you moving forward.
Hey,
no problem. Thanks, boys.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Happy holidays.
You too.
Well, that was fun.
That was very, very cool. That we've talked about how the tag team division in New Japan is getting a bit of a reboot. They had an idea with Aussie Open that didn't pan out because they ended up going to AEW. Bishamon, of course, one of the best teams in the world, but the rebuilding of the tag division with War Dogs, with TMDK, Hikuleo and El Phantasmo probably weren't they absolutely weren't on the radar 1 year ago. They were still in Bullet Club and totally separate. But the bright spot that those two have become on the tag team side, and as fan favorites, as really good workers, it's been one of the better tag team stories of the year in a time when now we're looking toward a brighter tag team division in New Japan. They're a huge part of it, Jeremy.
It was funny. It's literally a Cinderella story because they were the ones that were overlooked until they couldn't be overlooked anymore. And I kind of wanted to bring it up and ask, but I wanted to know if, we ran out of time. I wanted to get them out of there.
I could have spent an hour talking to them.
Absolutely. They were great. They really opened up. Fantastic stuff. But I wanted to know if Phantasmo, when he beat Kangaloo at the G1, if that was his unofficial initiation into Guerrillas of Destiny. And then at the same time, Hikuleo having such a campaign during the G1 at the same time just kind of put them on a collision course for success with each other. They were tracking upward their momentum at the same time. So they've just continued it this whole time.
So all of that came together very late. That was very last minute stuff right there. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in early and catching that. Make sure you do the whole like and subscribe thing. It really does help the show an awful lot. If you're listening on the podcast, please rate us, give us a review and all that. Wanted to say thank you. Now it's time we can start a regular show now. Well, we had that fell right into our laps. We're like, oh, absolutely, we're doing this, even if we have to go on a little earlier than we had intended. So thrilled that we got a chance to talk to El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. Of course, they'll be going up against Bishamon, title versus title on January 4th. But yeah, kind of on a little bit of a high after that. That was a lot of fun.
If you like that content, please subscribe to our channel, click likes, subscribe, comments, the whole deal. Didn't want to do that whole plug while they were there, but you know, sometimes you kind of have to pick and choose your moments. But please, if you enjoyed all that, please spread it far and wide, the interview that we just did, and our channel and our show. Thank you so much.
So let's take a look at some of the things. Brad and Sam from Power Bombshells. We're glad both of you are here. Glad to see you. It's, I believe, Corinne or Corrine. My little sister.
I think it's Corinne.
Okay, my little sister spells it the same way, pronounce it Corrine. So I always try to ask people. Corinne.
I always go with Corinne, but I apologize if I got it wrong.
Could very well be right. And just wanted to say, and Sieran RH is here too, who said that, do you think NJPW are testing Luke Jacobs in Rev Pro now? Yeah, sure as hell do. With the people they're putting him in the ring with.
Probably should have asked that question, but we got a little caught up.
Yeah, well, a lot of yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think they are, don't you think? Yeah, a lot to talk about this week. In addition to just having Phantasmo and Hikuleo here, so really good Korakuen Hall show today. We're going to talk about that. The
I have a confession to tell you.
What's that?
So busy, I saw one match on that show.
Oh, wow.
And it's not the match I wish I got a chance to watch.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll get to it. There is the Concurso Body Contest is coming up.
Yes,
so, hey, little New Japan eye candy for everybody. And new names coming up for the Battle in the Valley San Jose show. And just plenty more to talk about regarding New Japan wrestlers on showing up at Noah, being booked for Noah at that New Year's show on January 2nd for Noah. Should be fantastic. Dream Kingdom. Also wanted to mention before we get into the nuts and bolts here on the Korakuen Hall show, next week, we have a very special 2-part Wrestle Kingdom preview. So we're going to be on both Thursday on our regular time and then also Friday at the same time. And we have 2 very special guests for that as well. Scott Edwards will be joining us on Thursday, correct, Jeremy?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's going to be here. He's going to help us out with Dream Queendom. We're going to talk Noah. We're going to talk Wrestle Kingdom. And then Chris Samsa is going to be on Friday, and he's going to break down the Wrestle Kingdom card with us as well. So it's the biggest show of the year. We're treating it as such with a very special 2-part preview. And I'm pretty excited about that, too. This has just been a great couple of weeks.
I am. It went from, let's do a little bit of programming for Wrestle Kingdom, see what ends up happening, and we'll just kind of work it out, to all of a sudden, just Wrestle Kingdom programming here and there. I actually collaborated with the We Work Stiff podcast for the first time, right. And they have a little bit of a Wrestle Kingdom preview that they're working on that I gave a couple thoughts about a match here or there, and that might end up in some of their programming, but I had nothing but nice things to say about my experience working with them. And Keeping It Strong style has got a lot of programming. It's just one of those things that, hey man, we're here for it. This is the big time. There's the G1 and there's Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah. And if this is the attention and this is the time that the people are paying attention, well, I'm here to help.
There you go. So should we start with this Korakuen Hall show, Jeremy? What do you think?
I will take your lead on this one, my man.
So because of everything that's been going on, you only got a chance to watch one match from the show today, you said?
Yeah, so I was trying to get to the 2 main events, or the semi-main and the main, and I got to one of them on my lunch break this morning. Spoiler, I usually work on Thursdays, and so trying to make sure I find the time is a little difficult with some of these Thursday mornings. And then we pushed up the show 45 minutes or so from we planned, and that window was going to be the main event of the show. So I saw the King of Pro Wrestling match.
Okay.
And you're going to walk me through the rest, and I legitimately don't know what happened.
Oh, okay. Well, we want to start with the main events, right?
Sure.
So the main event of this show, the final match, was the never open weight 6-man title match. Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tomohiro Ishii against United Empire. This match was, again, Jeff Cobb, Great O'Connor, and Hanare for the record. This match went 33 minutes and 31 seconds. It was superb.
Oh, I knew it would be.
Just a brilliant match. Jeff Cobb worked on a sprained ankle. We found out from Chris Charlton, who was live at ringside, with English commentary. He was there. Walker Stewart was on play-by-play live there at Korakuen Hall. So he is in Japan and just got in, I believe, last night. But Cobb worked on a sprained ankle, showed very little effect from it. So he just powered through that from what he was saying. He must have wrapped it up pretty tight there because really didn't show it. Incredible story here. All year long, there's been a rivalry between Ishii and Hanare has gotten the best of it most of the time this year, whether it's in various tournaments and whatever clashes they're having. It seems like Hanare has gotten the best of it. That was the story they told in this match. Certainly Okada and Tanahashi were part of it, but once it came down to it, after the big moves started to get hit, when we started getting toward the finish, they isolated Ishii and Hanare. The others would pass in and out of the ring, slide in, break up a tag. Then a couple of things would happen and get thrown back out. There were a couple of those sequences where everybody knocks each successive person down until everybody's down. Great stuff. And we had a really hot crowd in Korakuen Hall today. Well over 1,400. There were people up in the crow's nest, in the balcony, standing room. And the crowd was ready for everything. The wrestlers were energized. This was a good show overall. And it sounded like a pre-pandemic crowd by the end of this one, because it just came down to Ishii and Hanare with beautiful timing, hitting key moves against each other. And in the end, Ishii did manage to get the brainbuster in, but go back and watch. If you can't watch the entire half-hour match, watch 15 minutes of it. Once you see the last half of it, it's just incredibly great stuff with 6 excellent workers. The build-up, the back and forth, Jeremy, it just didn't get a whole lot better. As soon as you have time, make time in your schedule to watch this one.
I kind of felt that there was going to be a retention just with Okada and Tanahashi both in.
Yeah. The only guy that could lose was Ishii, right? Yeah. The only guy that could have lost was Ishii because the other two were just
even then, it seemed like putting any of them on the losing side going into Wrestle Kingdom just seemed like optics that you want to avoid. So I am tremendously pleased to hear that this was a banger.
Oh my goodness! And Brad mentioned Hanare was awesome. Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii are the greatest 6-man team ever. That you might be able to convince me of that before too much longer. There, they are really outstanding together. They've dropped the whole idea of Ishii and Tanahashi not getting along. These guys are all on the same page, storyline wise. They're working together great. And yeah, Hanare was fabulous in this one, and really everybody was. And I think they mostly protected Cobb pretty well. Again, if he's injured, then they were very smart about that, and just a hell of a good wrestling match. So that was
I keep saying it, but we are slowly getting to the end of the C block shenanigans for G1.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we got one more match. We got Shingo and Tama to shut it down.
There it is. Before that, we had the King of Pro Wrestling match. This is the final KOPW match before the end of the year. So again, after this one, whoever won this match would be the 2023 King of Pro Wrestling. Their name would be etched on the belt, and then it goes back in the pot after that. It's up in the Rambo, I believe is how they're doing it again in the pre-show. So for Wrestle Kingdom. So again, we start over again at Wrestle Kingdom. So this
I have
is
a question for you before you get started on your description of this match.
Fire away.
When you saw the time length on the show, because it goes like it'll tell you how long a match is.
Yes.
What was your reaction?
You know what? I didn't notice it because I watched the show in order, and it just moves from one video to the next, and I didn't see the counter to know how long it was.
It had it at 50 minutes.
50 minutes for this one, but the match was not 50
minutes. I set my phone on my car dash, and I watched it on my phone. I'm watching this match, and I just
what the hell?
50 minutes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
What on earth is going on?
It wasn't that long. There was just an immense amount of cleanup after that all stayed within the same video, but those time cues are not necessarily truthful.
Well, there was a reason for that, and that was because there were a lot of smoke and mirrors in this one as well. Of course, you had two really good workers, Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And this is the culmination of a long story where Taichi has just been trying to get his hands on Uncle Nobu since the big turn where he joined House of Torture. And so this was a whiskey bottle ladder match. They took a transparent bag, like the kind that you have to bring into stadiums now, and hung it up over the ring with a bottle of Suntory whiskey in it. And the first person that gets it is the only person legal to use it. And the only person that can use it legally, I should say. The match before the bottle came into play was nothing particularly special. But eventually, Kanemaru did get the bottle, and he used it mostly to spit whiskey in Taichi's face in key moments. So he just kept blinding him and blinding him. Taichi ended up making a rally. At that moment, the lights went out. Kind of. Right now, they have emergency lighting in Korakuen Hall that is such that it pretty much just was glowing in there instead of just being dark. So House of Torture attacked, of course. That was what was the setup for that. And we knew the match wasn't going to end before that happened. So all of House of Torture came out for this one, and even Narita. They all had giant bottles of Suntory, or what's billed to be Suntory. They poured them all into a bucket and then stuffed Taichi, ostensibly his face, into a bucket of whiskey, which, you know, that's pretty hardcore stuff there. But so they stuffed Taichi's head in the whiskey. Just five guys finally came out and made the save, ran everybody else off. That left Kanemaru and Taichi alone. And then you know what happens when it's actually one-on-one. The babyface has the upper hand there. Taichi rallied. There was good back and forth. Kanemaru picked up the bucket, had to do it twice because the timing wasn't right the first time, so they had to kind of redo the spot. Picked up the bucket the second time. Taichi kicked it like he's punting a football. Kicked the whiskey up into Uncle Nobu's face, and that led to a couple of big moves, including the Black Mephisto, and he got the 3 count that way. And so 25 minutes, 24 seconds. Taichi gets his revenge on Kanemaru. He is the king of pro wrestling for 2023. We move on from there, and they actually had to change the mat because by kicking the whiskey into Uncle Nobu's face, they absolutely soaked the mat before some of the key people for Wrestle Kingdom were about to go into the ring. And so they thought, you know what? Rather than having these guys slipping and sliding around with their ligaments and tendons, how about we just change the mat out altogether? They tried to dry it in vain. That wasn't going to happen. And so that long delay between the semifinal and the final there was so that the Young Lions could change out the mat. So if you ever wanted to get a look at that,
I think Yuta Nakashima got a standing ovation at the end of all of it.
He was working hard. They all were.
He was working hard.
Yeah.
This match exceeded my expectations. My expectations weren't really that high, but it exceeded it. They got the bottle early, and a lot of these times when you have the ladder match in the bottle, it's the climax is grabbing the bottle, but it was simply just a weapon in the match. It wasn't, you didn't retrieve it to win the match. So it made the layout of the match a little bit more interesting to me. This was also like the spiritual successor to the Suzuki-gun retirement from a year before, you know, that was the second to last show before Wrestle Kingdom at the end of the year last year, just like this one was. And in a lot of ways, it was tying up a lot of loose ends about where everyone was going to go and what they were going to do after Suzuki-gun disbanded. And this kind of put the final touches on it.
Yeah. A couple of notes here. Brad says, some people pay good money to get spit on as much as Taichi did. Well, you know, hey, we're not here to nay anyone's yay. We are not here to nay anyone's yay. But that's probably
here.
True. Dunston's here. Good to see you, Dunston. He says, hello, guys, with the strong belt seemingly going away. Yeah, it does look like it, doesn't it? Do you think New Japan should do that with the KOPW and Never title and merge them into one? I am going to say no in this case because I do think they accomplish different missions. I think the Never Openweight title is, when it's at its best, is kind of the Bruisers title when it's, you know, like the tough guys, the Shingo Takagi title, the Ishii title, it has been in the past. And I think King of Pro Wrestling, the KOPW thing just gives a little room for these bits of creativity with the stipulations and doing something a little bit different. And so with doing something different, the creativity, the different types of matches, I think it is just a way to keep a little bit of variety in the mix, and also to have another title that can either be a legit semifinal or sometimes a main event of a show when the build is right. And I think they want options. So that now the addition of the global title, where the global title fits in with the never title, that I'm curious to see play out.
We had a conversation, Josh and I, we were stiff, where they kind of talked about the global title being the title that New Japan takes outward into the world and challenging on like a world level, but you go to New Japan to challenge for the IWGP, which I like that distinction in a lot of ways. It gives the legacy and caliber moving forward. With Dunston's question, okay, it was up there for a while. It's fine. The strong belt's going away. I don't think the strong belts are going away. Where is it said that they're disappearing? Like,
well, the one's going into the one's going into the Triple Crown, and then they're going to make basically a double tag team title.
But they're going to be holding both belts, and they're going to have 3 titles. They're going to be carrying around 3 titles. I'm not necessarily sure that the Ring of Honor title and the strong title are disappearing. I think they're going to be walking around to 3 titles, and then each of those guys, the tag winners, are going to be walking around with 2 titles. That's the impression that I get until they officially announce they're merging, because they never actually said any of these titles are merging.
No, it's just that I do think they're going to be kind of, I mean, the Triple Crown thing, they're going to go away for a while. I don't think we're going to see them as separate entities for a while. Flaming Shark mentions I'm about to go see Iron Claw. I'm seeing it this weekend. I can't wait. Oh. So I'm not going to be able to stick around for the whole show, but yeah, this match was really amusing. And then he also mentions that the King of Pro Wrestling is basically a gimmick match title just to mix things up a bit more, since New Japan traditionally didn't do this stuff much and wanted to test the waters a bit. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it does it does something different, so I don't think they're going to merge those two. Dunston mentions the New Japan Bushiroad backtrack after a new belt is established. That's an important point. This is where I'm curious to see what happens with this global title, because it's one thing to say that, but keep in mind, a year ago we were saying that the TV title was going to be for young wrestlers and, for up and comers, and it's been Zack Sabre Jr. the entire time. He's never lost it. It hasn't been something that they've used a whole lot of the new guys with. Most of his challengers have been veterans and people from other companies and all that. So let alone what has happened with the IWGP women's title and all that stuff, with none of which has happened the way they said it would when they created the belt. So it's a fair point to see what they actually do with the global title compared to what they say they're going to do with the global title, because they don't tend to follow their own paths. They tend to change their minds on that. So
the rules do change over and over and over again.
And yeah, the Flaming Shark, I'm heading to watch that. I'm excited. I am excited about this movie. I know it's not a documentary. Yeah, I know. Hey, did you like it?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's not
rewatchable. It's sad, but it's also entertaining. It's not.
You have to set aside you have to set aside some of the inaccuracies, but I hear that they get the emotion of it down very well.
I walked out of that movie, and the moments I was supposed to cringe, I cringed. And the moments I was supposed to smile, I smiled. And the story it told was sound. And if you've never seen any wrestling and you're walking into it, you're going to walk out thinking, wow, that was a really good movie. If you know the Von Erich story, you're going to be like, wow, that was a good movie.
Okay, that's all I can ask, right? That's really it. I was trying to figure out a way to weave that in, because the Von Erichs always worked for All Japan. They really didn't have a New Japan presence there, but I did want to acknowledge that there was a pretty good movie coming out about wrestling there. So, okay, so moving on from this one, we had this was the preview here of the world title match for sure, and a little more of the butting of the heads between Yuya Uemura and Yota Tsuji. It was just 5 guys, Sanada, Uemura, and Doki, against LIJ, which was Naito, Tsuji, and Bushi. Strong night for just 5 guys in this one. Naito actually ended up taking a shot in the eye, I believe, from either Doki or Uemura there, and he was cut by his eye. It looks like his right eye there. It didn't look like it was swelling at this point. We'll have to see what he looks like at the show tomorrow right there, but he took a bit of a shot in the eye, which is, considering he just had eye surgery and all, it's not what we wanted to see. But it didn't seem to be too damaged there. There was a deadbolt suplex to win by Uemura on Bushi, so he did not pin Tsuji, which he said was his mission before the end of the year. Also, Sonata wrapped Naito up in the Paradise Lock and left him there the remainder of the match, including during the pin and then after. Yota Tsuji had to kind of push his way through just 5 guys to free Naito from the Paradise Lock. More stare downs with Uemura and Tsuji. So this just really felt like another little side chapter on the way to the Dome and on the way somewhere with Uemura and Tsuji. Just a little bit of an appetizer. I think we'll get more tomorrow.
Yeah, I look forward to commenting somewhere, some way about these shows that people are going to forget about next week by the time I get to it. So thank you for that recap.
We also had, there it is, El Desperado and Satoshi Kojima against Shingo Takagi and Hiromu Takahashi. Terrific match here. Kojima was really good in this. He always is, but he was having a particularly good day. This was just a little taste. They didn't do too much with Desperado and Hiromu. They don't need to. We already know these are 2 of the best junior heavyweights on earth. They're going to have their big one-on-one Wrestle Kingdom match at last on January 4th. Doesn't need a whole lot of build, so don't do too much. In this one, it was mostly Kojima. There was a pumping bomber finish by him on Kojima, Shingo. And it was just a really good match. 7 minutes, 43 seconds, but the crowd was hot for this. And I keep mentioning them, but they were really excited about this show. It just had all the right energy. And like I said, by the main event, it sounded like a pre-pandemic crowd. They were yelling and screaming instead of clapping. And it started early, and Kojima, just a strong showing here. But it's all about Hiromu and Despe on the 4th. We don't need a whole lot else. So I'm glad they just took it easy.
For that match. I'm so excited for that match. Of all the matches of just like the New Japan card that is not like a special attraction match, or you're bringing in somebody from outside to spice this thing up. This is the match, Desperado versus Hiromu, that I am just circling. I'm like, I don't know if everyone else is here for it, but that's the one I just cannot wait for.
And then Dunstan has a couple of comments here I want to get to. He says, Tsuji versus Yuya needs to happen at the Dome. I totally agree. Yeah. We only have 8 matches so far for the Dome. I think Narita versus Shota is not official for the Dome at all. I mean, it's not listed as being on the Dome, but they're not listed in any other matches either. So I got to feel like that's going to happen. And then Tsuji and Yuya, he says, need to happen at the Dome. I would love to see that in some form as well, or at least at New Year's Dash. They need to get to that pretty soon. I'm kind of itching for it as well.
We need to pivot to something real quick, and that's the Noah show that happened today, the other day, where Evil showed up.
Well, we're going to get to that in the next match.
Right. So let's just put these images up here and just have them there and just let that simmer in your brain. And now we'll go back to our previously scheduled programming.
So, and then Dunstan also wanted to ask, do you think Tama Tonga feels out of place in New Japan? Well, he has a singles match for the Never Openweight title at Wrestle Kingdom, so I don't know if he feels out of place. If he isn't in say he loses to Shingo Takagi for that Never Openweight title, it will be interesting to see where he fits in after that, after having his run at the Never Openweight title back and forth with Shingo. What happens to him after that? But do I think he feels out of place? I don't, if he's in kind of a featured match at the biggest show of the year. So it is a fair question to ask what happens to him after that, though.
Yeah, I am looking at all this, and I have my thoughts about what Evil and Ren might be having going on, and I kind of think Kiyomiya and Oiwa and Shota in a 6-man at the bottom of the card may end up being what we're heading towards, and they are going to hold off on Ren versus Shota for a little while longer.
Yeah, it could
kind
be.
of what I'm feeling.
I think they're going to make contact at the Dome somehow, just because there's no way they're going to have this card without Umino and Narita on it. It's just a matter of where it fits in, right?
Yes. Yeah. So at the bottom of the card is not where this should happen. It is Wrestle Kingdom, right? But it feels like you're not gonna get everything that you want out of it, like the Will versus Shota match, a power struggle at the bottom of the Wrestle Kingdom card, because that's where a Shota versus Red match is going to be. And I will be happy if it happens there, but it will not ultimately be what I want to see out of them from the get-go. I just want a bigger platform.
Now, New Japan Booker Geto is big on long-term stories. It's very possible he has something in mind for Shota and Ren for Wrestle Kingdom 19, and it's just not time to put to do Chapter 1 quite yet in that way as far as a singles match. So there are options here, but let's talk about this next one because a couple of things weave their way into it. First of all, House of Torture showed up at a Noah show and attacked Kiyomiya and Oiwa, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what that brought to us was Evil, Ren Narita, and Sho facing Shota Umino, Tomoaki Honma, and Master Wato in Korakuen Hall today. It went 8 minutes and 35 seconds. It was fine. There was a lot of steam on Shota and Ren, of course. That's really what the crowd wanted to see. Narita hit Honma with a push-up bar that was given to him by Shibata. This was a point that Chris Charlton made, that Shibata had given them this push-up bar, and Narita brought it into the ring and cracked Honma with it to get the win. There was a post-match beatdown, of course, Bullet Club being Bullet Club. But in the middle of that beatdown, Oiwa and Kiyomiya, who were not on the card, ran in and made the save. And then Kiyomiya and Shota Umino shook hands after. And that leads to your theory that what we're going to see is a six-man at Wrestle Kingdom to get those guys on the card. So we have Shota forming at least an alliance a little bit with Kiyomiya and Oiwa. You've got House of Torture irritating everybody, and that is a way to get those six guys on the Wrestle Kingdom show. Again, nothing has been formally announced, we're supposing here, but that seems to be what the tea leaves are telling us.
Yeah, we have 8. We could get to 12, and Evil is one of those guys that's not on the card. And it's just like, as much as a lot of people can be like, it's fine, it's Evil. It's like, it's not. Like, Evil has been a huge part of all of New Japan this entire year, and him not being on the Wrestle Kingdom card would seem like a huge omission.
Yeah, I agree. So I got another question for you before we move on here, Jeremy, because we have time.
Yeah.
I have just this little pie in the sky. This could be fan fiction as much as anything else.
You know, I love me some presupposing scenarios.
Is the true evil genius behind all of this, behind David Finlay, behind maybe even Geto, is the true Kaiser Soze of New Japan, Katsuyori Shibata? Everybody,
as much as I would love that to be the case, no, Steven.
Everybody he has trained has turned bad.
He's just a terrible coach who's completely oblivious to the shadow,
Gabriel Kidd,
the shadow cabal at the LA Dojo.
Ren Narita. Everybody he touches.
I wanted to ask Hikuleo about that, but it just seemed a little too inside. You spent some time at the LA Dojo. What was Shibata doing over there that everybody turned to Bullet Club? You leave Bullet Club and all of a sudden the flip switches and everyone's like, oh, I want to be part of Bullet Club now. What's going on with that?
That's the second time I've heard that this week, the flip switches instead of the switch flips. Vic Joe, the guy on who's the god awful announcer on NXT that Booker T, but he's awful.
But I didn't watch NXT this week, so he did a complete coincidence.
The flip has switched. That's starting to get contagious. What else we got here from the gang? Flaming Shark. We want to get his in because he has to go. Maybe Ren and Shota happens fairly deep in the New Japan Cup. Yeah, could be. Not everything has to be at the Dome right now, even it often feels like it should. Yeah. Well, what we're supposing is even if they did face each other at the Dome, we're a long way from anything resembling a blow-off. And then, it would be chapter 1 of that feud, even if they did do it one-on-one. But this makes a lot of sense. And he also says Evil was literally the most recent challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship, whether we like it or not. So, yeah, he should be involved in something.
I kind of think he's going to be the guy challenging Naito after all said and done. Because he is the guy, he beat Naito for the title the last time around. And so you just throw him in there, and it's one of those easy feuds that you can do right after Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh, I forgot about this. Flaming Shark, Kenta as well for Shibata in a way, although they fought each other after that. But remember, he's the guy that brought Kenta into New Japan before he joined Bullet Club. I'm telling you, the guy, it's Kaiser Soze. Kaiser Soze.
Shibata is in Japan right now. I believe, because
Everybody is.
he
Kana's
had
there.
he
Asuka,
had
Io
some visa
Shirai.
issues that he had to get settled. So it's a new day in New Japan, but I don't think we see Shibata anywhere.
But yeah, that's and then Flaming Shark just says him being the mastermind would be hilarious. Yeah, it is just kind of funny that everybody he touches has
I think the only person that should be a mastermind is Master Watto. Everybody's underestimated this this young plucky babyface, and it turns out he's just the most vicious guy around.
It'd be a difficult one to pull off for him, I think. I love that guy. I think they're setting him up for the winner of Hiromu and Desperado in some form.
Oh, what makes you think that?
Well, just because he's winning everything right now, but and not getting beat, maybe most importantly.
It does seem like it's time to shine for other people than Hiromu in that division.
Did you see that everyone's back in Japan? I just noticed like Asuka had a picture with Shuri in Tokyo, I believe, or Osaka, and then who was it? Io Shirai was there with Io Sky, was with Mayu Iwatani and Rossy Ogawa.
The entire WWE roster is on vacation from Tuesday to December 31st.
All right, Flaming Shark, you have to go see the movie. Enjoy it, Shark.
Flaming Shark.
Next week, come tell us what you thought.
Yeah, I think they have a couple of house shows on the 26th and the 30th, one in New York and one in LA. But other than that, they're free and clear to go spend time with the loved ones. And, say what you will about some of the business practices for WWE, but at least they're making time for the families.
Yeah, fair enough. And, it's funny that Asuka, with Shuri and things, it's Asuka hasn't worked for Stardom. That's the one person that they're all dream matches when it comes to her. We haven't seen any of that in a way. So let's see what else we got here before that one. We had mentioned the House of Torture. Yes. Oh yeah. TJP and Francesco Akira. We got Catch 2-2 back after a while. They teamed with Callum Newman and defeated the Bullet Club of Clark Connors, Drill Maloney, and Ghetto. Now, have you heard what happened in this one at all, Jeremy?
No.
Oh, wait till you hear this.
Oh, I can't wait.
Wait till you hear this. So Maloney and Connors came out with a coffin on a little rolling cart. And they just said, we're going to bury you in a coffin. We're going to, we're killing you. We're destroying you for good. The match was a good preview. I mean, the six of these guys know what they're doing. It's fine. Yeah, Newman is starting to really mesh with some of the New Japan styles there. This was a good preview. It led the double knees, the knee on Ghetto got the victory for TJP and Akira. Afterwards, there was a beatdown, being the War Dogs, of course. And then after TJP and Akira kind of took their beat down, as the Bullet Club guys were leaving, TJP got on the microphone and said, oh, you guys want to start bringing out this coffin thing. I'll tell you what, how about this? Instead of having two singles matches tomorrow in Korakuen Hall, Catch 2-2 versus the War Dogs in a coffin match. So for the first time, Jeremy, we are going to have a coffin match on
a non-title coffin match.
Show. Non-title coffin match at Korakuen Hall.
Prior to their title match at Wrestle Kingdom.
That was the angle today.
I call shenanigans and I call bullshit with that match tomorrow. Something's happening. Something is happening. There's going to be an angle. There is going to be some type of injury presumption. There will be something. This is madness. New Japan doesn't do this.
Dunson said the problem with Hiromu in the junior division is that outside of Despe, no one else can carry the division and be the top guy.
I disagree. I think that they have been comfortable with Hiromu leading the division, and so they have been inclined to change, and everything needs to change. There is a time and a place where the top guy needs to move aside, and they need to create new people. It is not that anyone can. It is that they just got comfortable with Hiromu.
And Hiromu is the best junior heavyweight in the world,
Absolutely.
To be fair. So the thing is with Hiromu, I've said he's the closest thing they've had to Liger since Liger. And in that he can be the champion or he can be the number one contender. He can go and do other things because you can always plug him back into the title picture and it will always make sense. You don't have to build Hiromu into a contender. So he can lose that title and make someone and then go on to do other things. And whenever you're ready, whenever you think you need to, you can bring him back into the title picture and everyone will always take him seriously as the top guy. You can just plug him back in and it's a big title match. Hiromu challenging for the title whenever you need to. So it's okay for him to hold that title, move away from that title, hold it, move away. almost similar to the way they've done it with Okada in the heavyweight division, where you can always slide him back in. And, that he at this stage, he can make people. I think he's going to make Desperado, although we already know Desperado's on that level. But I think that it's going to be I do think that whoever comes out of that match, you go on to Master Wato, that type of thing. But Hiromu is a guy that is always going to be one of the top people in that division, so he doesn't have to lead it. And I do think it's time for them to create some new champions at that level. And I think they can do it this year.
Let me ask you a hypothetical. If we think that Hiromu needs to not be around division in order to let someone else be successful,
he's not going to be a heavyweight, Jeremy.
No, not a heavyweight.
He's
Do
too
you
small.
think that the global championship could be something that he would have? Because that's not necessarily a heavyweight title either. It's just a global. Well, maybe it is a heavyweight championship, actually. I was just wondering if that was a title that they could pivot onto him and have him carry that title, because it's not the IWGP title, but a match between him and Will Ospreay for that title would. And that could be a guy that Will could put the belt on if he does retain, if he's not going to immediately make one of the younger guys.
Now, Dunstan is onto it. Exactly what I was just about to suggest. We do have a belt that is not weight specific. That's the never open weight title. Hiromu is one of the only people who has gone over in one-on-one matches heavyweights. It happens sometimes, but junior heavyweights generally don't beat heavies in New Japan, but Hiromu has a few times in New Japan Cup action, other places. I think he could be a guy that could move on from the junior heavyweight for a little while and go after the never open weight title. And I know that right now, Shingo has it. They're both in LIJ. It doesn't have to be immediately, but down the road, I think that's one way to let someone else lead the division and have Hiromu in a prominent position. He could be one of the first junior to hold the never open weight title and be a legit threat against any heavyweight. And I think that might be a way to use Hiromu outside of the junior heavyweight title picture.
Never open weight works. He definitely needs to be outside of the junior heavyweight division, at least for a while. Maybe challenge Desperado again sometime in the few months after. But, I kind of want to see something like Desperado versus Naito in a champion versus champion match, something fresh like that. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking for. And, as much as we've seen a Naito versus Hiromu match here or there in the past, if we're doing champion versus champion, that's not exactly exciting to me come March. But also, it's Sonata versus Hiromu exciting. It's Sonata versus Desperado exciting. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to think of what's the best direction there. And the more I think about junior heavyweight division, I love Hiromu, but I'm not as excited for Hiromu to continue to be the champion.
I don't know. You don't think if Naito wins, Hiromu versus Naito at the anniversary show isn't exciting?
I feel like we need to be looking more to the future and fresh matchups rather than going back to some of these that I feel like they've done and teased. And I think they've done Naito and Hiromu before in one of the shows when Naito had the title. So if they haven't, then they should do that. But
I think there's a decent chance it's Naito versus Desperado at the anniversary show too. So which would just be a hell of a good match, which is really what you want. Okay, after that we had TMDK. That's Zack Sabre Jr. and Kosei Fujita. I'll tell you what, Jeremy, for a guy who's on excursion, Fujita's in Japan an awful lot, which I'm not complaining about. He's an excellent wrestler, but this is not much of an excursion. It's less of an excursion than Oiwa. Every once in a while he wrestles somewhere else, but other than that, he's been in Japan most of this time. Facing Yuto Nakashima and Oscar Loibe. This one went 10 minutes, 22 seconds. Of course, Zach got a hold on Loibe. Referee stopped it because he couldn't tap. He was his arms, legs, everything. His arms at least and head were immobilized. Loibe and Nakashima are really good, and this match was terrific. Fujita's excellent. Zach is Zach. The vibe here was just four guys going very high speed, very quick, a lot of energy. And we know that Zach's one of the best wrestlers in the world. These three guys, Fujita, Loibe, and Nakashima, are a talented group of guys that are coming up through the ranks in New Japan. And when you watch, the more you watch these guys, the more excited you are about the future. My goodness, these guys are terrific.
I am always getting excited for these guys. Them and Bolton. There were times when you watch a young line match. Oh yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And right now is not that time. Their fire and energy and the new program that they've been instituting, the fast tracking, it seems to be working pretty well.
Loibe can talk too, by the way. If you look at his backstage comments and things, there's not a whole lot that Oscar Loibe can't do. This guy is a talented dude. If he fills out physically, I think he's just going to be so fantastic. The first match, dark match, was the Masked Horse. That is, he was abandoned by his parents, raised by horses, and now in New Japan there, and obviously trained and heavily influenced by Ryusuke Taguchi. His partner, the Masked Bolton, we're still not sure who this is, but he looked very powerful and very strong, very well-built young man. So he faced Toru Yano and Tiger Mask, and what can you say? This was actually fairly good. It was a lot of fun, and of course, Bolton, Oleg there with Yano did the whole thing where he, gut wrenches him and then moves him from one side to the other in a deadlift. And he did something like 10 reps or something. I mean, the strength of this dude is amazing. And more special treatment for Oleg compared to Young Lions on the winning side against two main roster guys. Key moment here, Jeremy. Before this match, they had a little ceremony for Osamu Kido and his passing.
Right.
And Taguchi, Masked Horse, managed to get Tiger Mask in the Kido clutch, which was his flash pin move. And Masked Horse won the match with the Kido clutch in a bit of a testament, a tribute to the passing of Osamu Kido for the finish of this one.
Yeah, it's funny when you're just like, it's funny, weird that you introduce like such extreme bullshit like Ryusuke Taguchi and the Masked Horse, and then you're just like sandwiching it with the ceremony for good time.
But Kido was one of Taguchi's trainers, one of Nakamura's trainers. That group of guys that went to the dojo together, and Kido was one of the guys in the dojo that really trained those guys up. Nakamura has always called.
You have
Kido
now explained it better, where it doesn't sound quite so tonally dissonant.
Well, it was in Nakamura's book that the only guy who showed up ready for the drills you have to go through was Taguchi. Taguchi was the only guy on day one that could do the 1,000 squats. All this stuff. So Taguchi was actually a little bit ahead of the rest of the guys in that class. That included, I think, I don't know if
sounds like how I live my life, Stephen. Under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, but that was the thing. So Taguchi was one of Kido's trainees, along with Nakamura and others too. He was at the dojo for quite a while, but Taguchi, a little bit of a tribute there to his teacher. So that was nice.
Are we going to do a quick preview of tomorrow? I got the lineup for it, but
yeah, let's go through tomorrow's show at Korakuen Hall, and this is the final show before Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan. Now, there's a Noah show we're going to talk about a little bit, especially next week. That is very New Japan influence. But we will see the main event: Sanada, Taichi, and Uemura facing Naito, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji. So starting lineups in a 6-man for these two groups against one another. Final preview before the main event. Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi against Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. Of course, Danielson not available to do previews. So Fujita is stepping in there, and we'll have Tana and Zack. Not the only time Tana and Zack are on opposite sides before the Dome, but this will be, what could go wrong in this match? These are 4 really good wrestlers there, so it should be good.
I just appreciate Fujita putting his hair back like Danielson. Really can kind of see the Danielson in him right now.
By the way, during the match, Jeff Cobb did the yes in Okada's face there just to troll him, which I enjoyed.
Jeff Cobb's a smart guy. Coffin match.
Coffin match between Catch 2 and the War Dogs. We'll see if there are any shenanigans ensue. We'll find out.
There will be shenanigans.
There'll probably be shenanigans. And we will have Desperado and Master Wato. So Despo Wato facing Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi in a preview of the junior title match.
Despo Wato, they really know how to get a guy to tune in. I do love me some Despo Wato.
Yeah, I think Wato might get the fall on Bushi in this one, just to emphasize the idea that this guy's on the up and coming side of things.
I was doing a dive into one of the old Wrestle Kingdom, and I think I saw Bushi, young boying one of the matches, if not just on Naito's side. I think it was probably the maybe 8. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yes,
whatever one we watched last week.
When Naito was still Stardust Naito, Bushi was pre-LIJ Naito. Bushi was in his corner too. They were allies before LIJ.
Yep. He's been around.
You can also see Desperado, I think, in some of those early Wrestle Kingdoms without his mask before his gimmick. I mentioned that here too. Bishamon will face Loibe and Nakashima, so that'll be a warm-up, tune-up match for the World Tag Team Champs.
Cool.
Tomohiro Ishii and Callum Newman. Callum Newman against Tomohiro Ishii.
I don't know why this made me laugh, but he's gonna die.
It's an intriguing clash of styles for sure. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of Ishii standing in the middle of the ring while Callum bounces off of him.
Is Callum Henari's young boy?
That's an interesting question. What else we have?
I didn't like that one.
What else we have there?
What else we got?
Okay, and there it is.
Horse.
Masked Horse and Masked Bolton against Yano and Yo this time. So instead of Tiger Mask, it's going to be Yo taking a shot at Masked Bolton. So there you go. Masked Horse again. Yeah. So and a Masked Horse will be out on his little toy horse that they roll out there, and he'll be giving away gifts to the crowd beforehand. So
you can ride off into the sunset. Take your horse and ride with it.
Something for the kids. Dunstan says, I have a feeling one of the matches at the Dome will have an angle that'll lead into New Year's Dash. Yep, I think so too.
Okay. So a little bit of news
I agree with you.
before we get that review, right, of the Wrestle Kingdom show.
We have some new names for Battle in the Valley in San Jose in January, correct?
Yeah.
So who's been announced?
This list here. In the red, we got Now and Now. We got Shota Umino. We got Rocky Romero. We got TJP. We got Bad Dude Tito. We got David Finlay. We got Gabe Kidd. We got Alex Coughlin. We got Fred Rosser. We got Tom Lawler. We got Jory Nelson. And we got Royce Isaacs. That's in addition to Julia, Eddie Kingston, Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., Kazuchika Okada, and Strong Style's favorite sons, Hikuleo.
There you have it. So Battle in the Valley, we don't know any matches yet, but we have a nice lineup for it here. So
and then we got a new contracted wrestler with New Japan.
Go ahead and tell us about it.
Soberano Jr. has a dual contract with CMLL and New Japan, similar to what Teton has. And so we may end up seeing one of those guys that would be an early favorite to be in the G1.
I'm excited about this too. It's nice watching CMLL, which I've been doing. The New Japan logo so they have a video board around the ring. I jumped ahead there. They have a video board that goes around their apron like WWE does. It's not just a curtain there or a piece of fabric. It's a video board. And when the CMLL logo kind of rolls across it, the New Japan logo comes right after it every time. It's almost like they're on equal sides there with that presentation. So Rocky Romero just lost the NWA historic middleweight title he's held for a long time, I think since January. Just lost that to Mascara Dorada. And so the working agreement seems to be going very strongly right here. And Soberano looked damn good in that tag team tournament. And I'm happy that he's going to be in New Japan more this year. Next year, 2024.
He's one of those guys that I feel like he's on the cusp of being more recognized as a name than he is now, kind of like La Sombra was in 2015, 2016. So I am excited to get more exposure to him prior to Fantastica Mania, prior to the New Japan Cup, maybe prior to G1. I honestly expect him to be in all of these things at this point.
All right. And what else we have?
I think we just got our our obligatory Naito review at this point. Is that
Well,
we get it?
well, yes, but we also have the bodybuilding contest participants.
Oh,
Bring
the
that up.
concurso. Did I have the concurso in here? I thought I did.
I thought you did.
I thought I did too.
I think it's toward the top.
I'm working on it.
Here, we'll get it up there. But anyway, this is the little bodybuilding contest. So if you notice the guy's getting more cut, that's because this is all coming up here. So anyway, Jeremy will find that pretty soon. And
I don't have it.
Okay. I think I have the list here, so I'll get to it here.
Yeah, I got the list. I just don't have it.
Yeah, here it is. Tama Tonga, defending champion, by the way. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tomoaki Honma, Ryusuke Taguchi. Okay. Master Wato, El Desperado, Doki, who is more ripped than you'd think. He wears that shirt in the ring, but that dude's in good shape. Kosei Fujita, we know he's pretty cut. Ryohei Iwa, Yuto Nakashima. Okay. Oscar Loibe, Bolton Oleg, Shoma Kato, and Katsuya Murashima. Those are the two new young lions. They will all be taking, they will all be part of it. Photos will be taken backstage at Korakuen Hall this week with a poll for the Japanese fans taking place starting December 23rd. So that'll be part of the New Japan social media. So as you see these guys, they're dieting down.
Do you
not a carb to be
feel
had.
like that year that Tanahashi won the concurso and then basically like was never able to have that physique again? Did I curse him?
I don't know if it cursed him, but I mean, I think the guy just was like, I would like to eat something now.
He's like, I'm never going to cut to that level again because I don't think he ever quite got that trim ever.
Well, Tanahashi's abs go in and out just depending on how he's dieting and how he's training and all that stuff. He knows how to do all that kind of stuff. So yeah. So should we look at the Noah card or the what should we do next year? What do you want?
Why don't we remind everybody what we have planned for next week, and then we will explain the Noah and the Stardom link because of the Wrestle Kingdom, and then we'll decide whether we want to recap that final match or not.
So Wrestle Kingdom week is going to involve a lot of things. It's going to involve a Noah show. It's going to involve Dream Queendom, and all of this is within the New Japan universe. There will be New Japan wrestlers on the Noah show in a prominent spot, and of course the IWGP Strong Women's Championship will be defended at Dream Queendom. So all of these things are going to weave together as part of it's the story. So with that in mind, again, we have Scott Edwards coming on a week from today. Scott is one of the experts on Joshi wrestling in the world, and I say that without any hesitation. I mean, this guy is one of the best. So he's going to get us up to speed on all that. We're going to talk that Noah show, and the Noah show has, like I said, House of Torture is going to be there. Tanahashi's going to be there. We'll go over that in a little bit. And so all of that is going to lead up to our show on Friday, which will have Chris Sampson. That's going to be more Wrestle Kingdom central. We're going to talk Wrestle Kingdom with Scott, but that's going to be a little more all-encompassing, and we need to cover this Korakuen Hall show.
Everything is tied. There's web woven from all these different promotions.
So it's a two-part preview, one with Scott, and then we're going to really hardcore Wrestle Kingdom on Friday with Chris Sampson. And we'll talk about other things with Chris as well. But that's kind of the plan there. So just the overall Wrestle Kingdom week will be covered, not just the Wrestle Kingdom event itself, because each little bit there has some storyline for us, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's nuggets there, and I'm glad I kept my Noah subscription, the Wrestle Universe thing, so I can just slide right in there and catch up with everything that's been going on. Because if you really truly want to know every single detail going into Wrestle Kingdom, watching the Noah shows are in fact important.
There you go. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming up with that. So do we want to just do the Wrestle Kingdom rundown right now, or what did you have in mind?
I'm going to follow your lead, buddy. It's been a long show.
Okay, so let's start we'll go in order. So we're going to have Dream Queendom coming up on December 29th. The key matches as far as New Japan goes is Julia will be defending the NJPW Strong Women's Championship against Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne has been doing an excellent job as sort of a monster heel at first. She attacked Tam Nakano. Since then, she's kind of endeared herself a little bit more to the crowd. She's more of a tweener, but she will be challenging Julia for that belt, and should be a heck of a card there as well. Suzu Suzuki versus Maika will determine a new World of Stardom champion. That belt vacated with Tam Nakano's injury. We'll have Mirai against Saori Anu for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. Aphrodite, which is Utami Hayashita and Saya Kamatani, both of whom very recently came back from injury, against Natsuko Tora and Momo Watanabe for the Goddess of Stardom Championship. That's the tag team titles, and more. But the main thing for New Japan canon will be that Julia Megan Bain match for the Strong Women's Championship. And I have to say, Jeremy, here, that is probably as much jeopardy as that title has been in since Julia won it. And with the Mercedes Moné thing maybe happening, maybe not, who knows?
I don't think the Mercedes Moné thing's happening.
Then I think it's in serious jeopardy. They may well, go with that. So
they've teased the Trish Adora match, but they haven't actually confirmed the Trish.
Yeah, and it could be just a retention for Julia. We don't know how long Megan Bain is even going to be.
How they do business. They don't advertise the following match without like the title defense currently on the plate. But Megan Bain is a name, and she's getting to be a bigger and bigger name. So I am excited to have Scott on here, and you guys can analyze the crap out of it while I throw in my 2 cents.
Well, Bain it's not on the level of Mariah May, where Mariah May went from an unknown to an, oh my God, somebody signed this woman immediately type of rise.
Well, she was the one in the conversation a few months back about, is she on excursion with AEW? And yes and no. Like, they're all involved in her development, but she is doing this, it seems, of her own development, not someone directing her to go do this.
It's certainly raising her stock, and it's amazing what working with Stardom will do for your working ability and your rate and just your overall game there. It's really, really helpful, and just getting reps, right? I mean, the one thing about being with AEW, no house shows really. I mean, if you're not on you could go a couple of weeks without a match. The one thing about Stardom is it's a tough schedule, but you get reps, right? And nothing like ring time.
Yeah, nothing like ring time. And Stardom, you go hard or you go home. You go home if you go too hard.
And if you go too hard, you end up going home in a sling, is what happens. So on January, well, I mean, these people get hurt a lot. There's been a rash of injuries, and so I didn't mean that derogatorily. I just mean that is
it's the reality. Like, you watch 5-star Joshi show with Scott Edwards, and he's giving an injury report alongside the news and notes.
Yeah, exactly. So that leads us to January 2nd, which is a Noah show. This is the big new. It's just called the New Year, as far as I can tell. That's just the title. And there are a lot of interesting matches on this show. One that's not New Japan adjacent anymore is Naomichi Marufuji against Kota Ibushi in a singles match. Should be intriguing. We're also going to be seeing Zack Sabre Jr. teaming with Yoshinari Ogawa, the wily veteran, against Tanahashi and Hayata. We will see Kiyomiya and Oiwa against Evil and Yujiro. That'll be on that Noah show. We are also going to be seeing Go Shiozaki against Satoshi Kojima on that, in a couple of guys who are older than most as far as it goes, but can really work a good match. So that's going to be terrific. And then the match, Tomohiro Ishii.
I'm here for that one.
His doppelganger, Masa Kitamiya. These two were separated at birth. Now they will come together on January 2nd and face each other in Noah. And that's just going to be the big E match, right? Big meaty men slapping meat. Is that how you like?
Big meat men slapping meat match. This will be kicking off my week of vacation, where I'll probably start watching this on a lovely morning, and then I will get my sleep schedule all messed up for Wrestle Kingdom 2 nights later. If you're a night owl and an early bird, it's possible if your sleep schedule is that messed up.
And there's a lot of here are the main matches in case you are Noah curious here. The junior heavyweight title, Daga against Aita, and then the heavyweight title match, Kenu against Manabu Soya. And not a lot can go wrong in those, Jeremy, barring any kind of early injuries. And this is a hell of a good card.
Is because he's in Noah, he doesn't get enough attention, but he's in the conversation for Wrestler of the Year in Japan.
Any other thoughts? Of course, in the court, we're going to run down Wrestle Kingdom. We'll get to it next week. It's going to be all about Kingdom right there. But that is what we have mostly for this week. Well, we're keeping our fingers crossed for all of these Continental Classic matches that Danielson doesn't get hurt. And until then, we're just kind of waiting to see what other matches are added to that card. I think we are going to be very close to having the finalized card within a day or so after this next match. There may be some angles tomorrow morning in the Korakuen Hall that will lead to a little bit more, maybe something after Noah, but I have a feeling they're going to start announcing things pretty soon.
Anything is up for grabs prior to the press conference is how I want to look at it. Once the press conference is done, the card is locked. That's kind of how I am operating moving forward with the Wrestle Kingdom. I don't know when the press conference is. I think it's probably on the 3rd. So anything that happens at the Noah show could possibly lead to it. Like we're talking a 6-man with Shota Umino and Kiyomiya and Oiwa versus Ren and Evil and Yuchiro, because that seems like a natural progression of what they have going on at Noah. And Shota not being there seems like they're holding him back for something else. We had a great show.
We did, and I know we do want to talk a little bit about the Okada-Naito match from past Wrestle Kingdom, just to kind of get us to this point of Naito's story.
Yeah.
So did you have thoughts on the previous Naito world title main event with he and Kazuchika Okada? Any thoughts on that before we move on?
So this was the match that we ended up previewing this past week, and we were going to talk about it. And plans just kind of went haywire, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it as much. But I liked this match. I thought it was better than their previous match. I also thought that Okada was so much more in his prime in this match than Naito was. And that's not to say that Naito wasn't able to keep up, but their last matchup, I felt Naito was physically the superior to Okada, because Okada was still a little bit young. And as much as we want to say that he was always in his prime, there were still things that he was learning and he could still get better at. And I felt like their positions kind of shifted, and Okada was physically the more prime wrestler. We saw the Stardust attempted again in this one. We saw it was near the end of the sequence, but it didn't play into the finishing sequence really as much as previous matches that it's been used in. But with Naito winning, it ended up really ending a era of his career in which he had to exercise a bunch of demons. From the point on in this match, when this match was over, it felt like there was a new era to Tetsuya Naito. Conversations about, can he win the big one at the big event? Those kind of things. Those all just kind of dissipated after this. And that was also a really big part of the match. A fantastic match. I mean, it's Okada and Naito at the Wrestle Dome. So, I don't think anyone was expecting me to tell you that it was, just okay, because it wasn't. It was fantastic. But these were the things that I took away from it as I was watching it. What do you got?
No, I agree with you. It was a matter of, the big moment for the world title and the Intercontinental title. And it was just a matter of, Okada was definitely at the very top of his game right here. Yeah. And it did seem like he was not carrying Naito. That's not fair to Naito. That's not what I'm trying to say. But he was the guy in that match.
He was pacing the match.
Yeah. Yeah. And, again, it was just a matter of just two really great wrestlers and two guys that the crowd were really into. The fans were really all about those two in that one. So it was exciting. It was a lot of fun to watch. And in the end, though, it was I felt more about, wow, what a performance by Okada than by Naito. So I'm curious to see how I feel about it after this match coming up on January 4th. Will I be saying that was Sonata at his very best, or are we going to get the full thing where Naito pulled a great match out again, despite all the damage his body's taken over the years, and rose to the occasion? I think Naito's very much capable of doing so.
Probably the best of the three matches that we watched with Naito. It was better than Muda, and it was better than the first Okada Naito match. For extra credit, if you feel like watching it, we're not going to cover it because we have so much, but the original plan was Naito versus Ibushi because we felt like that too would have some elements that would enhance your appreciation for the Wrestle Kingdom match coming up. Another one of those main event Naito matches at the Dome. If you get to it, I would recommend checking out that Ibushi versus Naito Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 from Wrestle Kingdom 16, I think.
If you look
15,
if you look back at Naito's history here, this is a guy who really shows up for big matches. And he really almost always puts something special together. Naito's psychology is second to none. Even when his body is sometimes failing him in his matches, his psychology is still right there. So on the big stage, in the Dome, with that crowd on his side, Naito is pretty special when it comes to that. So definitely recommend going back through the archives. They are up. I know not everything on New Japan World is where we were hoping it would be at this stage as far as the archives go. But, and I do have a couple things to note before we go on that, but the Wrestle Kingdom stuff is all there, and you can go back and watch that. And Naito at Wrestle Kingdom is always something special. He always shows up. He's always great there, and it's worth going back and watching those matches.
Agreed and agreed. What else you got? Anything?
Very quickly, they also put up a few Osamu Kito matches after his passing. Then there's one particularly, it's a multi-man match from 1986 that's up there. That's basically Team New Japan versus the returning Team UWF. So UWFI. So it was Maeda and Kito and a lot of the guys that left to form the original UWFI that came back to New Japan, and they sort of did it as an invasion angle in a way. So you had these guys coming back and not exactly welcomed back by the fans. They were kind of seen as the returning turncoats, so to speak, even though they were back with New Japan. There's a match on there. It's an elimination match that has guys like Kito, Akira Maeda, Nobuhiko Takada, who would become a major figure in UWFI history down the road. And then on the other side, you had Inoki, Fujinami, Kengo Kimura, even Ueda, who was kind of the chaos goblin of New Japan at the time, and a heel, teaming up with the hometown team, so to speak, to face these returning UWFI guys. The heat for this match is off the charts. Like, the fans are so into every single thing that's going on in there, and that one's worth a look. There are 3 Kito matches. That's the best one. They also had a match there where he and Maeda faced was it Fujinami and Kimura for the tag team titles. Just really good stuff. Kind of shows off the best of Kito from the 1980s, and some really hot matches. The crowds were on fire for New Japan at that time. It's fun to watch.
There also been a Naito and Sonata interview, video interview kind of thing that has aired on YouTube and New Japan World, and I suspect a lot more are coming over the next couple days for these wrestling packages. We will go ahead and try and cover those and recap them. If there's anything newsworthy or significant regarding them, we will talk about them on our Wrestle Kingdom preview next Friday with Chris Samsa. And don't forget to like, subscribe, click, share. Talk about Speaking of Strong Style. Beginning of the show, we had ELP and Hikuleo talking all their careers. So if you're catching up with us now, check out the beginning of the show. Thank you for watching. Stephen Conway, what do you got?
I think we're ready to sign off. So for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. Thank you once again for tuning in, for listening. However you get with us here each week on Speaking of Strong Style, we're grateful for you. Thanks for letting us do this for you. With that in mind, we will talk to you again very soon. Take care.
And thank you to El Phantasmo and Hikuleo for the time that they gave us today.